contact. 20 seconds. 15. 10. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1.
We got him. Let's go.
And welcome, art aficionados and comic book connoisseurs, to Proof of Comics number 19. I'm your host, Frédéric Guimond, and I'm joined with my co-host here,
a man that I call Bob.
Kaplow.
How you doing, Billy Bob? What you been up to?
Sparking Zero came out yesterday. Been playing the fuck out of it. That's what I'm
What's
doing
that?
right now. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
Oh, Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball game.
That's why I didn't hear about it. Ooh, yeah. And we are also joined today at the top of the show by our other co-host, Lord Otter. Oops, I cut that short. You only get a half show.
Who let the water weasel in?
How you doing, Lord Otter? What have you been up to?
I'm doing all right. Feeling at half energy because I was cut off from my intro, but whatever.
Hold on.
I'm doing fine. Hurricane and everything notwithstanding.
Yeah, so you haven't been hit yet. Not yet. I'm not saying that in the sense that I hope you get hit or anything, but you've been safe so far, right? The storm hasn't come your way.
So far, it's pretty okay down here, but we're preparing for the worst.
Oh, dang. I hope you missed the thrust of the storm. It sounds terrible. I mean, it sounds huge. I do wish you well, you and your family.
Well, thanks, man. So far, it's not too bad, but we've got a contingency plan just in case.
Good. I hope that doesn't depend on the government contingency plan.
Hopefully not.
And we are also joined today, top of the show, with our other co-host, Wrangler from Frequency Studios. How you doing?
Greetings, salutations, and stuff.
Yeah. You've been playing games as well, haven't you, Wrangler? Haven't you? Confess.
Okay, yeah, I may have been playing Metroid again.
Nice. All right. And you were asking me just before the show started, you were asking what music, where the music comes from in the second part of the intro, correct?
Correct. I really like I love that synthwave sound. Always have.
Yeah, that's actually from the Commodore 64. That is, I can't name the composer, but it's the theme music from the Rambo game on the Commodore.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was really, really fun and good. There were like 2 games with really good soundtrack. I mean, there were a few.
I'm your worst nightmare.
Yeah, but it was a really hard game. Like, it was almost impossible to make any progress in that game. But the music was so good that you kept playing it over and over and over again.
I remember playing a Die Hard game on the computer years ago, and I couldn't figure out what the heck I was supposed to do in that.
Yeah, man. Some of the old games didn't come with instruction books. You had to figure it out. And I had one on C64 again. It was called Mission Impossible. It was the coolest thing because it had like that fluid animation that you would see later with Aladdin on Genesis, or Prince of Persia had that fluid animation as well. And you had that.
That was
64.
That was some gorgeous animation and
Yeah.
Prince of Persia on the PC.
Yeah, and the game started by, well, quote unquote, welcoming you. You had like the mastermind voice over the speakers that said, "We're another visitor. Stay a while. Stay forever." It would crunch up because it's C64 voice synth, but it's so cool, man. It's cool.
Now, you mentioned some of those games didn't come with instruction manuals. Unfortunately, a lot of them nowadays do not come with one at all, even if you get the physical copy for a console. In fact, a lot of the Switch games, I open up the case, and there's a clip in there for holding instruction manuals, but there isn't one because they just didn't bother making one for that. Granted, a lot of them now have in-game tutorials, but sometimes things just aren't clear. Like you can acquire all these items to be used in different ways, but it's not. I think it's assuming you already have some context that you might not in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, some gave clues to important parts of the game that was hard to figure out. I remember I had a text game on the Fantastic Four, and one of the Fantastic Four, I think it was the Thing, was stuck inside a tar pit, and I could never figure out how to get him unstuck. It's just like, it's a text-based game, so if you don't know what the command is, what right question to ask, you're stuck. And there was no internet back then, so if you couldn't figure it out, you were stuck. But luckily, we had
it kind of sort of was. I mean, I used to play British Legends on CompuServe. I would use PC Link to hook up to it.
Wow.
And I ran up my parents' bill without realizing it because playing
long distance telephone. Yeah.
Not just that, it's you were charged for time spent on the server.
Oh shoot!
Oh man.
Hey, Corey.
Hey, Corey Barton. Welcome to the stream.
Oh, hey Corey, how's it going?
Yeah, but there's some things I just really miss about the 80s.
Oh,
The 80s is still the soundtrack.
Also, Otter Picture Mike.
Yeah, you're crunchy. Well, actually, it's pretty on theme for the C64 conversation.
Oh, is it a problem with my mic? Hold on.
Yeah, you sound a little bit crunchy.
I think I know what it is.
And also speed it up, which is kind of weird. It sounds like you're watching the video on speed, but on like 1
I
point.
might have to rejoin. One
There
now
you
you're
go.
better. You're better.
Wait, I didn't even change anything.
Well, it adjusted itself. Obviously,
Yeah, I think it was
StreamYard.
just maybe your cord or something wherever hugging on your mic was a little.
Could have been your internet connection.
Probably. It could have been my internet connection. It's quite possible.
Remember my mic used to do that on the Gilded voice chats all the time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, Gilded had a lot of problems in general.
And there goes the crunchy again. I think it's going to be intermittent. Corey says 80s had the best babes. That is correct. They need to bring like time travel tourism. It needs to be a thing.
We need that. We need that overall sound back.
Yeah.
Fun song and jiggle physics.
Yeah, and just the sheer fun, like people having
Mike's
a
still
good
messed up.
time.
God damn it. Okay, I'm rejoining.
Yeah. Must be a glitch somewhere along the line. Who knows?
So, Frederick,
Yeah.
what happened with the cards?
Oh, this is the funniest thing. I feel so stupid. I mean, to be fair, here I'll explain it, and you'll understand. So I had these cards made. I had some made by two different companies. One, it didn't work out. They were cut crooked and off center, and they weren't not even the correct format, so they didn't fit into the card holders and things like that. So I'm sending it back to the company. So I go to the post office and I go up to the clerk and I ask him to resend it to return it to sender. And he says, he scans it. He says, okay, great, fine. And I'm kind of like surprised that it doesn't cost anything. I'm like, okay, well, that's free service. Okay, well, one of those. And then today I just come back home and the box is at my home. He just sent it back to me.
Oh man.
So I have to go back to the post office, which is quite a detour because we got terrible traffic these days. It seems like there's construction all over the place, and it takes extra time to get anywhere. But I got some really good looking cards from the other company. They are absolutely gorgeous and perfect. A little bit on the dark side, Anakin style, but they look beautiful. Like when you have them under sufficient amount of light, they look absolutely perfect. But as soon as you get under a little dimmer light, they are a little bit too dark. So I'm going to watch out for that in the next batch.
Nice.
Of course, I have an 80s Bay. Are you kidding? I have a clip for everything now, though we are limited to 100 clips, which breaks my heart. Yeah.
How's the mic, by the way?
Oh, you're sounding good now.
Okay. Yeah,
Exactly,
sometimes it's
Corey.
just
They were
StreamYard.
happy.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring back some of that happiness, I think
Gen X and early millennials, we were the happiest generation. We were the last happy generation.
we gotta teach these.
And
kids.
now nobody's happy.
Yeah, now everybody's just so cynical all the time. In fact, I'm like, please stop, please.
Yeah, for sure.
Except for James, he's always happy.
Hello,
Excellent.
boys.
James,
Hello,
welcome.
hello.
How's it doing? You don't seem too phased by things, James. You've seen
Phased? I mean, I live in a desert.
You are already in Mad Max, basically. So
Yeah, sure. Why not?
For a Mad Max setting, all those Muppets look extremely happy. And you see their faces, they're all smiling.
Well, it's a lovely day.
do you get around in a dune buggy, James?
No, but scooters have becoming incessantly popular. And I don't necessarily mean the motor scooter that looks like a Vespa. I think more like an electric scooter that looks more like a kick scooter.
Yes.
Oh,
There was a ton of those in Nashville. You remember Billy Bob? They were everywhere on the.
Yeah, it was rent-to-ones.
You would step.
Yeah.
all
those
over
those
the
green
sidewalk.
ones.
I found out the other day they have one that's, I'm not even sure if this is the strongest. They may have more with some more horsepower, but it goes 65 miles an hour, and it got wheels that match my my scooter that goes 75 miles an hour. So I think that might be the future because it seems to be adopted widely. They're inexpensive compared to most other forms of travel. And a lot of people these days really aren't going that far from home. so they're quite available. I think you can one that goes like 30 miles an hour for like $400. So
My main concern with those is the batteries are. I hope they are not subject to like exploding or catching fire, things like that.
I guess that would come down to the brand. That would
If
come down to the brand.
if your
Bad dog,
leasing of it is
dog
done
bark.
and you don't turn it back, they make it explode.
All right, you gotta pay the license fee every month, the subscription for the non-explosive battery.
Yeah, that was the topic a couple of weeks ago. Exploding devices, remote control. Oh.
Oh, by the way, Frederick, I like the new gun design for the bolt pistol.
Oh, thank you. So I went with the really simple 9mm base kind of shape, and then just added like technical gadgets, the little extra design stuff that, is not on a regular 9mm. And I think there's still a little bit of detail I can still add to it. And I need to finish the suit, and I kind of like was on automatic pilot and gave him jeans, but he doesn't wear jeans. He has the suit like Sabrina, so I need to update his suit there.
Gotcha.
But I'm
Very
also
urban-looking gentleman.
yeah. Well, they're downtown LA, so
Strike a pose.
there you go. Hollywood sign above them here, behind the gun smoke.
Yeah.
Should be cool. Should be very cool.
And Detective Roberts' facial expression, perfect.
Nice. I went with the cues you gave me.
It looks good, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, it
He has
looks very
strong
nice.
jaw.
Yeah. Well, I think he's the hero. He's the lead guy, right? So he's got to.
Yep.
He's got to look the part.
Yeah, they look like if the guys from that Contra game took the day off, they look like they could fill their shift.
Oh, dude, that Contra game. I was hearing like on social media they were saying like kids today can't finish the Contra game, but
You know what? Adults can't either, because I used to finish that Contra game on a regular basis. If I tried to play it recently, I'm like, no.
I mean I'll finish it, but what do you call it when you like auto save all the time? Like I play an emulator so I can save states, so that's
Yeah.
basically cheating. But
I
like,
don't consider it cheating though, because let's face it, we can't sit there and as adults, the whole get good.
yeah,
There's merit to that, but the problem is when you're an adult and you're trying to handle responsibilities in life and you want to play a game, you don't have the time to put aside, let's face it, as much as we love games, important stuff that needs to be done to get good. So having save states, I'm all for it, especially on the older games, because they didn't have them then.
yeah, important stuff like drawing comics.
But I mean, seriously, it's like if I had to sit there and practice to get good like I used to, I wouldn't bother to play it at all.
Yeah.
I just don't have the time.
Yeah, I give myself permission like during the holidays. I'll like spend some time like last year I was following this guy who's doing like Super Mario Bros. 3 world record stuff, and World 1 is like solved, like they know how to do the fastest run through it, and you can learn it. It's not super hard. Like I practiced the same level like for 5 hours that night, and I was able to equal the world record on 1-1 though. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool when you get it.
Yeah, like I've played through since I got Metroid Prime Remastered. I've played through that. I still haven't beaten it. I get up to Metroid Prime's final form and get wrecked. Now the thing is, I used to breeze through that all the time back when I had it before, but now it's been a while. I can't sit there and play again and again. I don't have the time to do that, and I forgot until recently playing again. I remember, oh yeah, the save station before the boss. You go through a save station, and then after that, you have to go through a room full of Metroids, get through that. Then you get through Metroid Prime, fight it through all the phases, and then you get to the final phase, get killed, and you have to go back to the save and start the whole thing over. And it takes about 20 minutes to go through this entire process for me. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and go through that over and over again. I'll eat up my entire day.
Yeah, for sure. But you still want the pleasure of going through it, so you save state, and when you die, but you start back. And to be fair, those old NES games are super hard as well.
Yeah. Well, also, Metroid Prime Remaster doesn't have the save state option. It's not through Switch Online. It's the actual game, and they stayed true to it. It was so, and even that is like not exactly Nintendo hard like it was back on the NES. I remember the original Metroid. I made a deathless run through that. Somehow I got through that whole game, beat it without dying once.
Nice.
And when I told other people, they're like, no, there's no way you did that. I'm like, yeah, I did. And now that I tried playing it, like I think last year, I picked it up and tried to play through just to remind myself of what a pain in the butt it was. I'm like, now I don't believe me either, because wow, it's like, how did I used to do? And I used to play it all the time, like no big deal, and now it's like everything is just an utter. I get stomped everywhere in that. The controls are so difficult.
Yeah.
It's like, how did I get so enthralled with this game?
Well, we were much more bored back then. I mean, it was a lot less to do. Your favorite show, you could only watch it when it was on, unless you had taped it on VHS. And then the more you watched it, the more it started turning blurry.
Oh, I had a whole collection of VHS tapes filled with Fraggle Rock.
Oh, dude, I was listening to that theme song again this week. It's so good. Jim Henson, man. He had such an impact on our whole generation.
He really did.
From Fraggle Rock to Yoda.
Yeah. And it's like, I think I had one tape that was full of Fraggle Rock and another that was full of Transformers. And that was another thing. I went back and tried to watch a couple G1 episodes. And I stopped because I'm like, no, I don't want to ruin this for me. I remember it very fondly. I watch these now. I'm like, these episodes are kind of dumb. But,
yeah.
But the movie,
not the worst
the
thing
86
ever.
movie is still awesome.
Oh, I love the 80s movie. I will agree about the Generation 1 episodes. It's not all of them. I still think there's plenty of good moments, and I think the overall direction is good. It's just you can tell the writing improved over time. Yeah, like the 86 movie is kind of like what it really culminates into. By the end, it's awesome.
Yeah, James, I think it was you described it as like a long toy commercial / music video.
Oh, they were definitely toy commercials, like 100%. Like they just.
But I was more into the characters than the toys. So
yeah, they were well done. That's the thing. Yeah, they did their research and they had talented writers, like G.I. Joe as well. Like they had some powerful stories, man. Like there's some stories were so freaking weird as well. Like there's one story where they end up in this weird empty military base, and then they see clones of other GI Joes that are made up of gray goo that melts. Like it gets into like a horror psychological thriller sometimes.
Yeah. There was weird. A GI Joe episode where people died, which surprised me.
Yeah.
I think it was only once. I mean, it was a couple of the Cobra foot soldiers were getting sucked into some energy thing, and one of the Joes even tried to grab hold of him, pull him back out to save him, and lost grip, and he got sucked in. And I'm like, oh, that guy's dead. I'm surprised they're doing this in a cartoon.
Yeah, they weren't explicit about it though. Like even the lasers all pretty much always missed.
Yeah, and then the 86 Transformers movie came out, and after that, I had to get used to the idea of characters dying.
Yeah, that was strange that they chose to do that, and they were going to do the same with GI Joe, and they
Yep.
pulled back because of the effect on or backlash they saw from the Transformers movie. Yeah.
Well, specifically from Prime. Although I don't know, I may have been more. I don't know which one I was more upset about, Prime or Ironhide, but
Prime's death was
Ironhide
pretty
he was actually
heartbreaking.
badass, and his death was like out of fucking nowhere.
yeah, but he just refused to go down still right to the bitter end. But like James watched it, 2 weeks ago was it, James? And he never saw the episodes or anything, so he had no context going in. And he just saw a bunch of characters he knew nothing about getting wiped out. He's like, what? But to me, I was in the theater going, what? That's one of my favorite shows. And then the whole time I'm like, through the whole second half of the movie, I'm like, they better not kill Bumblebee. They better not kill Bumblebee.
Oh man, yeah, that's the thing, is it gives you real tension after that. That's what I liked with Game of Thrones, is you didn't know what was going to happen. Whereas TV before that, you were like, oh, they're never going to kill the hero. Oh, he's a good guy. Or, well, that guy's too famous. They're never going to kill him. I really like that they brought back a little bit of tension that you're not so sure how it's going to turn out.
But that was the one thing that as a kid, I felt safe in. I'm like, well, I know they're not going to kill characters. It's a cartoon. I know people die in stories, but I'm watching a cartoon. I don't have to worry about that here. They just killed him. Crap.
Okay, I'm just checking Zapstream, and we got one viewer, and he zapped us. And his name is an emoticon, and it looks like it's an ostrich, which is the mascot for Noster. So we got an ostrich there who zapped us. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Otter.
Yeah.
You know who surprised me in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood? Who died?
Who's that?
The fucking what was he, like a general?
Are you talking about Hughes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big that's one of the big shocks of the series, is whenever he
I
dies.
was like, you know
because
what? He's like the comedic. Yeah, he's like the
He's
comedic
That's
relief.
always the biggest blow is when the comedic relief character gets killed off. You're like, whoa. There's nothing more unsettling than the goofball getting killed.
Well,
It was
that's
that and,
the thing. Like, it comes along way earlier than you expect, and the story knows it too. So it really hammers it home how much it fucks with everybody.
Like when I was, I watched a whole bunch of the Harry Potter movies, and then I was married at the time, and my wife had the series, so I sat down and read through them all. And spoilers for Harry Potter, how many decades later? But when one of the twins got killed off, that shocked me. I was expecting folks to get killed off, but I didn't expect one of them to go down,
Snape killed Dumbledore. Snape killed.
Oh my god!
Well, it's kind of
That
obvious
was a
when you
mercy
think about
killing.
it. It's kind of obvious when you think about it. They had a spare one. It's like it's an extra one.
Yeah, but I guess I was expecting to see a scene where it was kind of how he went down just in general battle. I don't know why I had the expectation in my mind that there would be a scene where where Voldemort was causing some serious problems, and then the Weasley twins would show up and kind of clown all over him for a little bit, and they would just do all this unorthodox stuff and have him going, what is going on? I was expecting a comedic beatdown that never happened. I don't know why I was expecting that, but
that's good writing. Good
story. Kind of like not that this is the best movie to point to, but remember X-Men Age of Apocalypse, how Quicksilver, he's always kind of happy-go-lucky in that. He'd show up and he'd goof off and all that. And then all of a sudden near the end, Apocalypse just seems to freeze, and you realize you're in Quicksilver time, and Quicksilver's looking at him and then just starts beating on him and and kind of goofing off on him until Apocalypse turned it around. But I was expecting a scene like that with the Weasley twins, where they showed up and just started doing unorthodox stuff that just makes you laugh at Voldemort before it got serious again. And I don't know why I was expecting that. I was waiting for it, and it never happened. I was kind of bummed.
Great Expectations.
Great Expectations.
That's a book I actually read and wish I hadn't.
Really?
It was like a very, very, very long Seinfeld episode with no jokes.
Oh man.
It was like everything was just so mundane and boring in that.
I've always heard about Great Expectations being that way. That's the thing.
I was required to read it in high school, and for whatever reason, it's one of the books I actually sat down and read through for class. Most of my book report assignments, I just completely blew off. This one, I mean, most of the required reading I blew off. For whatever reason, I went through this one, and I went through Silas Marner. And Great Expectations was just, you're wasting my time. Silas Marner at least had some, at least allowed me to have some interest. But just, I'm like, why is Great Expectations? How did this become such a big hit? I don't understand. Also, school doesn't do very good for helping people get that desire to read. I was told, well, go choose a book to read. So I went and I picked up an Indiana Jones novel. And the teacher came up and said, you can't read that. I told you to read a book, not watch TV. If you're reading that, you're just watching TV. Find something else.
Oh, God.
And I get, looking back, I get she was trying to help me become more sophisticated, I guess. And she meant well, but it really does, crush that any desire I had to even attempt reading. It really just crushed whatever was left.
Well, it's like you got to have fun while reading in order to actually want to continue reading. That's the key. And it's like if you're not initiated, if you're not guided in the right direction, it's like you're going to try and find something that's similar to what you already like. That's just how it works.
Or she may have misunderstood and thought it was just a novelization of a movie I already watched. She may have thought that. Now that I think about it, I don't know. But I don't think I'm going to go hunt her down 35, 40 years later to go ask, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was guilty of doing that, though. It was like I just started English school, and I didn't really want to read I didn't want to read at all. Like comics was the bear I could stomach, but I picked out there was a novelization of the Supergirl movie. So it was a nice cover to stare at.
For the few book reports I actually did complete, and I still didn't really pass them, but I actually turned in a book report. Full disclosure, I just went to the local bookstore and bought the Cliff Notes version. Do those still exist?
Less and less. I mean, the internet has rendered a few types of books kind of not as useful, like pricing guides and things like that.
Go looking for the Cliff Notes versions of a Dr. Seuss book.
Because you could probably find those online, like with a couple of keystrokes,
Yeah, you can go find a YouTube review on it somewhere. Here's my book report.
Yeah, exactly. You can find like a super highly jump cut video that'll streamline it for you with 2 minutes, and then an ad for Raid Shadow Legends.
And they'll use background musics and cutaways for jokes and
yeah, like you won't have to invest any attention span. It'll be like free flowing.
Yeah, too bad we didn't have more books on tape back then. I might have just listened to it while playing a video game.
Yeah, I bought a Star Wars audio cassette in the store once, and it was the raid on Ord Mantell. And it was all like like a radio drama, voice actors with all the audio sounds from Star Wars. So it's freaking awesome, dude. And when you're a kid, like your imagination fills the rest. You hear the sounds, pew, pew, pew. And Han Solo was convincing. I don't know if it was Harrison Ford or not, but he was convincing Han Solo. And they had Chewie sounds and the droid sounds and the ships and everything. It was pretty freaking cool. And I think it's taken place before Empire Strikes Back. Yeah.
Huh. And now I remember finding there were a few tapes that were Transformers cassette tapes. They were audio stories. And I would listen to those, and it's a completely different set of voices from the TV show. And I hated the voices, like, were so far off, so different from what I was used to, that I couldn't stand it. And then I realized I could do something. I took my boombox, put in a blank cassette, hit play on the VCR, hit record on the boombox, and walked out of the room. And I would record an episode of Transformers. So on one of the, we were regularly on hour-long car rides. So on those car rides, I would listen to the audio version of the TV show while riding, and that's how I got through the long trips.
Yeah, my parents did the same, but with vinyls we had with kids shows on it, like Albator, which as Captain Harlock now, and Goldorak. So there was like good songs on there, like really, really good, catchy songs. And yeah, the trips were fun then. You're like, oh yeah, it's my favorite song.
Nice.
And
I got into like audio theater and stuff like that in a video game that had like a Halloween event. And it had, I don't remember what it was, but it had something to do with them playing old school, like 1940s horror shows, audio horror shows. And I just got into them. So instead of playing the game, I just sat my character down and listened to the horror show.
Nice. That's good
very
in-game
nice.
content. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, it was like it was because radio dramas were not too far out into the past back then. It was like bringing them back into fashion, and it was
The Shadow knows.
yeah.
Who
I mean-
knows what lurks in the hearts of men?
Yeah.
I completely flubbed that up, by the way. Oh well.
No, but we
where
know.
you're going with that.
Yeah, we know the shadow. We need what you need is like a dramatic kind of intro there with a like a huge thundering voice announcing it. Where's the clip here?
We need to get Kahuna to do it.
Right?
Oh man, James,
What's up?
you know how to do the AI voices, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Who knows? Was it who knows what darkness lurks in the hearts? Who
What
knows?
evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows.
Who knows what darkness lurks in the hearts of man? The shadow knows.
Do we still have the clip for the superhero kitty who puts on the mask? I can't seem to find it, and I don't know if
Yeah,
it's because I'm.
Unless you
Some months
believe it.
ago, I actually made a AI song for the shadow. It took me some time because I kept getting the words wrong. I kept saying, "Who knows what evil lies in the hearts of men?" Like,
That's
oh,
close.
wrong.
There you go. That's all drama.
Whoa.
3D printed cat hats are the best thing in the world. Should get some. Any of you guys ever done any 3D printing?
No,
Right,
I looked
yeah.
into it. It looked like there was quite a practice behind it. Like, try to get everything under control properly. I was like, I don't really have time for this.
Yeah, I did it for a while before I got into 40K. And it is a lot of fun, but you get a lot of fails as well. And you got to do a fair bit of troubleshooting. But when you get it right, it's really trippy. And it got me learning. It got me learning how to paint, and learning how to paint got me better at coloring. So a lot of what I learned during that 3D printing phase, coloring 40K phase, kind of sort of delved over in the coloring aspect of the book now. There's so many steps you can do to bring out the shapes and the details in the characters, and they're not necessarily difficult to do. Like especially when you got an airbrush, you can do like an overhead light effect that gives you all the shadows. Like you paint it black, and then you do a light effect from the top. Boom, instant shadows, and then you could put transparent colors over that, and that keeps all your shadows and everything's already done. Then you could paint a couple of details, and then you throw a wash with the wash seeps into all the crevices, and that gives you like all the dark lines, makes everything pop. So it's really trippy when you start to know the techniques a little bit, and you got good models. But a lot of headaches that comes with 3D printing, but it does give you a little bit of childhood, childlike joy of like launching your 3D print before you go to bed, and then waking up in the morning. It's like Christmas. Okay, did this one work out? Is it broken? Did it work? You scrape it off, and then you're like, oh damn, it's perfect. Like I hope I don't break it when I peel it apart, because you gotta sort of peel it like a fruit, because it's got all these little supports on it when you print it. And you got
what kind of printer did you have?
I had the ones
there's
with
a number of them.
Yeah. So I had the affordable ones. I forget what hold on, let me
because I know they had like resin ones
that's the resin ones I got. Like I didn't do
those look freaky, bro. The resin ones.
Yeah, well, if you want to have like figurines, you got to go with the resin ones. Because if you go with the what do you call the what's the other one called? It's kind of like it comes out of a tube. It's almost like a toothpaste thing that comes out. Basically, it's wire. I forget what they call it, but that's good for functional stuff. Yeah, that one's good for stuff that's actually has a purpose to function in real life. Like when you do vents on specific parts that you need vents for, custom stuff. You want it to be sturdy a little bit. It's good for that. If you want to do more massive pieces for backgrounds, like if you're doing miniatures and you want like elements of backgrounds, that's perfect for that. Although you might need to sand out, because it gives you the pixelated effect, or the staircase effect. Whereas if you want like really detailed characters, you need to go with the resin, because the resin goes really precise. It's astounding how precise it goes. And the machines are relatively cheap. Like you can get some for under a couple $100. So they're not too out of reach.
Yeah, I saw that. It looked interesting.
But you get involved. It's is that the right way to say it? It takes a lot. It's one of those hobbies that you got to be able to find your models. Yeah, prep your models, put it on the plate. There's a lot of different elements that you got to learn before you get your prints done right. At the beginning, it's kind of like it seems like alien technology that has arrived. You're like, how does this alien technology work? Plug it in. There's a light. There's a screen. But then you're like, okay, how do I get my first one done and all that? So you got a few test prints in the machine that you can just launch. That'll give you like just a bunch of textures, and you can find details. You can see, okay, do I have the settings right? Because the settings kind of depend on humidity, the temperature of where the room you're in. So not everyone has the same settings on the machine. You're in the desert, much drier. Here it's very humid. So you got to find the right settings for it. But once you get going, it's freaking awesome. And once you got good files, you can make multiple copies of it. So like doing miniatures, and people are doing their own games, like doing clones of Warhammer figurines.
Yeah.
Warhammer is so freaking expensive, man.
And if they see your printed models, they get all like, "Hey, you can't play with those here."
No, that's not. That's only in the most strict.
The hobby
tournament.
stores. The hobby.
No,
stores.
no, we have no problems of that here. Some people
Really?
come with, yeah. Most people like have just percentages of their army that are 3D printed. Like mine was maybe 20% 3D printed.
Oh, okay. They got,
Some
like-
will have like some that have like new parts and new things, new models that come in, and they like multiple 3D print those, and there's never been an issue.
So, like,
Because the people that 3D print also buy models and they buy paint, and they're very involved in the hobby as well. So they've been mostly accepting it. You've heard of stories like that when you go to the most strictest, like official tournaments by Games Workshop, or like closely tied to Games Workshop. Then they'll like be stricter on it. But there's been no issues. I went to a tournament in Montreal.
nice.
And that's not even a problem, as long as you can tell what the figures are on the game board. Like if you use 3D printed, you have to submit a photo so people can judge. Okay, are you trying to game the system with your 3D model or not? Because models also function with line of sight. So if you have like one guy had you have skeleton figurines, right? But he had them just coming out of the ground like zombies coming out of the earth, which looked really cool. Took a lot less space, but you can target them with line of sight. So we had to say like, okay, well those would actually be this high, and it affects the gameplay and stuff like that. But people, for the most part, are very kind of well mannered, and I've never had any bad experience with players, luckily enough.
Sweet. That's always good to hear, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've always wanted to kind of get into that, but there's like, it's way more complicated than I'd like, and way more expensive than I got. And the company's kind of douchey.
Yeah. All those are true. And the games are still fun. Like I just ran into
they
the
look
guy
great.
I just ran into the guy who runs the store locally, and he was like inviting me to the Christmas game because I have like 6,000 points of Necrons.
Wow.
And we played a couple of years ago, like a Christmas game, and I think we only had 2 rounds. Like everyone brought like 3,000 points at the time. So so basically it was like 4 large picnic tables of stuff with backgrounds and armies, and it was wild. It's insane. It's crazy.
Sounds like a
pretty
fun
good.
time.
It is fun. It is fun because you're building your own armies. You get involved just like a video game. You would be like configuring your stuff and go to play, but then you get the added involvement of like painting it, building it, and a lot of times people work up the money to save for it as well.
It seems to be the big thing that I think helps drive a lot of investment into Warhammer. It's not just playing the game, it's building your army in preparation for the game. Because you're basically giving everybody their own small little story and their own little design, a nice little motif or whatever. And then you're actually getting into the battle, and then some of them actually die, or you're seeing them pull through. So I imagine there's a lot more investment there.
Yeah, I mean, some people add details on their minifigs as like depending on what they've lived through. Like if they've done a heroic act in a battle or something, he might like change a detail on it, give it a sign of the victory and all that. So yeah, I mean, it's fun. But
Right.
dude, it's so involving because the worst part is the rules keep changing all the time, and you got to stay up. It's like you got to do homework, man. It's like you gotta buy the books, you got to read the rules, and you got to get the app, just see what the updates are on the rules, because the rules fuck up all the time. So they have to change it, and then they have to adjust the points. And now your army list doesn't work because the points got an update and your list isn't valid. So you are either plugged into the Borg or you're not. Yeah, that's kind of what, it's kind of what 40K is kind of.
No,
But
it
it's-
makes sense. It tracks from all that I've heard about the game.
Yeah, I've put all that aside, but I haven't sold it. Like I'm still hanging on to it. I think I'll, whatever, like the conditions in life will come back to normal, or it'll be like an old D&D game where you settle on old rules instead of playing what the kids are playing, and then you just have fun with it. Because I had so much fun just building buildings and backgrounds and peripheral stuff as well.
I think that's a lot of D&D players at this point, like even 5th edition players, if we're taking a look at the latest handbook that's coming out.
Yeah, D&D is pretty much the source of all of it.
You mean the one that they didn't put the DM guide or the monster manual at all?
No, they're just releasing the player's handbook. That's it. No tools for DMs, which tracks honestly, considering at the very least my thoughts on 5th edition.
Like
which
DMs, man, DMs are so patriarchy,
Well, it feels like a slap in the face to run a 5th edition game, because by comparison, like Gary Gygax, if you've read some of his writing about like rules, he is like dead set on maintaining a balance between like the players having just enough to get by and thrive, while the DM also has enough to actually pose some sort of danger for them. So you get this nice form of tension. The thing is, in my opinion, this has kind of always been the case with 5th edition. There's a lot of tools for players, very few tools for DMs. Or more accurately, it's not fleshed out very well.
You just sound like a toxic DM who wants to bully his players, Otter.
Well, I am, but I mean, regardless, I think it's a crime.
Or the masochistic
against
gamers who love it.
Right?
Well, I'll say one thing. If nothing else, it helps to. I think more than anything, you need DM tools for a DM to refer to whenever they're running their game, because you hear a lot of experienced DMs whenever they run their 5th edition games. Most of what they're pulling from is books from other editions or other rule sets.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why doesn't 5th edition have a lot of these tools? Why are we just being told time and again, oh, just wing it? Well, you need some help there usually to help wing it. Sometimes like having some kind of like table or suggestion in place can help. It can go a long way.
Dude, what's better than flipping through a monster manual and looking at all the pictures and the stats and then going, whoa, did you see this?
Dude, I've been telling this to a few of you guys over the last few weeks, where we've been trying out Castles and Crusades. One of my favorite moments so far was when one of the players, specifically Christian's character, gets bitten by a rat, and I'm having to look up in one of the books, and it's like 4 or 5 tables on what kind of disease he gets, because apparently rats can transmit diseases. Surprise, surprise. But there's a whole lot of variation there. It can be a mild disease, like middling. It can be serious. And then on top of that, what is actually being affected for how long? So just that alone, that adds a lot of variety that a DM without any form of reference wouldn't even think of.
So what
Also,
kind of
Christian
disease
has
did
no
he get?
balls anymore. His character is ballless.
Was that the
His
disease?
character is ballless.
Is that what
No,
happened?
he got a neurological disease, which actually hampered his mental ability for a
Oh,
week.
so he's neurodivergent? Is he trans now?
It was a mild disease. It wasn't anything bad, but it basically gave him like brain cancer for a week.
Just a week?
Just a week.
Oddly enough, none of us ever noticed.
Yeah, no one ever noticed.
It's like a mild headache or something.
I mean, he was too busy getting kicked in the balls.
Damn. How did he get into that
Oh, my
position?
ball.
Or do I not want to know?
Oh, it was just Billy's character decided to kick him in the balls. I'll let Billy elaborate that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to ask.
Well, he shouldn't have been fucking greedy. Like, what the fuck? Like, if it wasn't for I couldn't hit the thing, I had to have a magical sword, I would have one-shot at the fucking shadow. Like, come on. Did most of the work. Wasn't for that.
By the way, I don't know if you're willing to divulge now, Otter, but it seems like we're kind of past the point where it matters. Who were those rats?
Oh, those rats were so she was the hag was actually being truthful, old Isabella. Those were all people who came into town and either were either rogues or they had a shady background or they just ended up pissing off old Isabella. So she would polymorph them into giant rats so she could conduct magic experiments on them. So it wasn't like anyone like strictly named, but it was like actual people she was experimenting.
But I mean,
on.
what was it really? The as characters, were they really people who deserved to meet that kind of end?
Who knows?
Hags are just assholes. Frequency.
Well, no wonder they got along so well.
It reminds me of James turning into a deer in his game yesterday in your weekly Wing It, Wrangler. Or was it after the Wing It? Did you get an update?
I think it was during the we were in backstage afterwards.
It was okay. Those are the best conversations sometimes.
By
James,
the way, James,
so-
did you find your way out of being a deer? Because I think you
Yes.
found something to turn yourself into a pig and then back from being a pig. I figure if you went
Yes.
through that, it would bring you back to human.
No, that's how it happened. So this is the whole story, right? So I'm in this game. I come across this new town in this new area, and this vendor has two potions. It's called deer juice, turns you into a deer, and undeer juice, turns you back. So I pick me up some deer juice, I drink it, and I frolic along, and I'm a deer, enjoying myself. I'm like, okay, I'm all done. Let's be a human again. I go back to the vendor, and I find out some people, actually a lot of people, don't want to talk to animals, including this vendor. And there's no way to get them to communicate with me at all in deer form. So that's just out of the picture now, and I'm on my own. So I go back out there into the world, and I just start killing things because I find out the only thing that drops deer juice out in the world is a deer. They drop deer juice and undeer juice. So I just start killing things, and I come across a lot of pigs. I get them out of the way because some of them are wild and want to attack you first. And I get pig juice and unpig juice in the midst of this. So I drink the pig juice. Transforms me to a fucking pig. Now I'm a damn freaking swine.
Amazing.
So I go about and I find out because each of these unlocks has their own class abilities. Like you unlock completely new skill trees. But deer is really good at tanking. Turns out the pig is much more of a support class, and he has a lot of healing abilities and sustain and some bleed abilities too. I'm like, damn, not bad, pig.
Yeah.
So I have some fun as a pig. Like, okay, I got to level 10, mess with him, unlock some skills, time to become a human. I drink the juice, turns me back into a fucking deer.
Yes, of course.
It only goes backwards. It doesn't turn you into a pig. Turns
No.
you into whatever the hell you were
It's not
before.
human juice. It's unpig juice.
Yeah, so it unpigged me. And
I
geared
really
up.
thought that would have brought you back to human.
No, of course
Yeah.
not. Because you don't think
And I-
like a programmer. Programmers going back in the history, of course.
I found out some people actually play this way, and they will be like, they'll first be like a spider, then they'll drink pig juice, become a pig,
Wow.
and then they'll drink, and then they'll be basically a pig and have like an unpig juice that turn them into a spider, and maybe have a deer juice turn them into a deer, and they'll go between the animals like that, which is kind of an interesting way to play. But I had to essentially spend most of my free time just killing random ass deer. And maybe after the second 100th one of them, literally a half hour ago, I got the undeer juice.
But you could have saved yourself some time and bought the undeer juice straight away, couldn't you?
No, because you can only obtain it in the world or by other players. And I checked all the markets that my deer self could see, and there was no deer juice or undeer
No, but
juice
I mean,
there.
when you bought the deer juice, you also bought. You could have bought the undeer juice with it, could you not?
Yes, I could have.
But you were like,
I-
I'll get it later.
Basically that. Give me a moment. Someone's knocking on my door.
Yeah, I would
He,
have done.
he
the
was like the
same thing.
drinker in that moment. No, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I would have exactly.
Nah, it'll be fine.
That's pretty good. It's pretty close.
I love that one.
Yeah, me too.
Predator goes so underappreciated.
Dude, that film is a masterpiece. And it shouldn't be. I mean, it's just a monster movie, an action movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the woods, but damn, it turned out so fucking brilliantly when you start to analyze it. It holds up really well.
Oh, that's going to be a whole conversation between Logan and Haley and Stellar Marshals because they're from different universes. And like Gentry's going to go walk into the room to overhear them talking about Predator. Logan's going to be asking her, "You mean Dutch was in only one Predator and Rambo didn't show up in any of them?" Because in his universe, Predator spun off from Rambo, and Stallone and Schwarzenegger were in all of them.
Yeah, that's funny.
That reminds me of The Last Action Hero right there. That's hilarious.
Alternate histories of films and action
Yeah.
stars.
Well, that's partially where I got the idea where Schwarzenegger walked into the in film version of Schwarzenegger walked into a video store and it showed Stallone starring in The Terminator. So that's kind of what inspired that idea. That and the channel Danco where he does all the versus battles and scaling and everything. He did, let's do a battle swap. What if it was Rambo versus the Predator instead of Dutch?
That would be a good fight.
Yeah. He pretty much determined Rambo would take the Predator down because Rambo, based on in-movie feats, Rambo's done everything Dutch has done, but better.
Ooh,
He said Rambo pretty much is Dutch, but better at it.
I can see that. Rambo,
Just not as
you had
physically
more,
strong.
you have more exposure to Rambo in the films to see what he's capable of. Dutch, you just got that single film. Very powerful guy. You spend a lot of time with him just kind of seeing his men get slain and him just trying to survive.
Yeah, I think he even did a Dutch versus Rambo episode once. And pretty much Rambo's a little bit better at Dutch at everything except physical strength. Dutch edges out in physical strength, which is obvious. Just look at them.
Yeah, Rambo is special as well because there's Rambo from the first movie who's like very realistic, and then as soon as you hit the second movie, he becomes a superhero. Like they parodied it.
He's almost on par with the Punisher in the second movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like in the first movie, it's almost you don't feel any of the super action hero. Especially in the first part of the film, it's just him going through town and having to deal with authority and all that. It's only when he starts to go fucking crazy and they hunt him down first, like he's defending himself. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But
hence the name of the movie, First Blood.
Yeah. And then there was First Blood Part 2. Why did they call it Second Blood? I guess it doesn't make
they called it Rambo. First Blood Part 2 was a subtitle.
Yeah.
And then the third one was just called Rambo 3.
Oh, because the first one didn't have Rambo in the title?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Dude, they sold knives. Like when I was a kid, I was 11 years old or something when it came out. I had a fucking, what is it, 6 inches? A 6-inch survival knife that was just like the one Rambo has. It has like what do you call it? Boussole in English.
Sharp edge on one side, serrated on the other.
Yes, and at the end, at the butt of the knife, you had a compass. You could twist it open, and it contained. You had like wire. You had needle and thread to sew your wounds. Because you're obviously going to cut yourself with the knife, and then you got to sew your wounds like Rambo up and all that. It's fucking crazy, man, to have those kind of toys for kids back then.
I heard a comedian talking about when he was a kid, he used to see the Rocky movies where he's drinking the raw eggs. He's like, yeah, Rocky, you're getting stronger. He says now as an adult, he sees Rocky drink those raw eggs. He's like, oh, I don't know, Rocky, that might give you salmonella.
Different world.
I'm also having way too much fun with this at the moment. I'm using AI art prompt generation to make actual artistic depictions of some of the deities in this setting of mine. There's
Nice. We got to show them off, bro.
All right. Yeah, I can show them. 1 second.
Show them off. Deities, man. They're always very creative looking.
I've got about 4 made so far, and I'm really liking the results so far. So I do want to ask you guys, so out of the 4, there's a choice. We basically have graceful, lover of like freedom waifu. There is eldritch deity. There is barbarian warrior god, and then there is like sexy magic goddess. Those are our options so far.
I want to see the barbarian.
All right. Let me see if I can share it.
In your upcoming
are.
book, do we get to see any of the gods in action?
Yes, actually.
I want to see what they're capable of.
Yeah, what do you have to say about that, Billy? You've read my second book.
What?
Wrangler is asking if we're getting to see any gods in action in the second book. Technically, yes.
Spoiler.
That's all I'll say. Also, Frederick, this is what the barbarian god looks like.
Okay. This one here? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty much
Nice.
like a god of savagery. So think like Conan. Conan meets like full on like
Sabretooth?
yeah, like think he's almost like a little bit of a Neanderthal and just sort of like how he behaves and everything. Like pretty much like the dude's leader of barbarian hordes and shit.
So he has a human form, but behaves like a Klingon.
Came out of the grocery store today, and I saw a guy with scars on his like below his eyes, like you'd see in a total superhero cliche, like Rob Liefeld Cable eyes with at least 2 cuts, very pink. It looked badass as fuck, dude. So
I really like how this eldritch deity ended up coming out. I'll go ahead and share that.
Yep.
Yeah, share them off.
Here's a few different depictions.
Go.
I think his nickname is the one who sleeps.
Oh, that's pretty good. You got good scale there.
Leave him asleep.
Interesting.
Just let him sleep.
Yeah, so this one is fashioned after a worm, like an actual like slug. So there's also some more terrifying variations. Very much Lovecraftian horror.
This one looks like He was sleeping and someone dumped water.
Yeah,
on him.
wait. Go back. I have something to say.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, the one who was sleeping until some asshole
Crazy.
dumped water on him.
he's not as scary because he reminds me of your like Avatar when he's got what do you call derpy eyes? Because his eyes are kind of a little derpy in this one.
I guess it's only fitting that I swap out to Derpy Face. Well,
He
if
shows
I
up.
can-
I am the one who sleeps. Can you please go back to sleep?
And here we are. Now it's Derpy Face. Yeah, so I don't know how
go.
much alike we look, but this is a pretty apt comparison at the moment.
Well, almost identical. I mean, creatures of the water with derpy eyes.
Water weasels versus water slugs. Who will win?
He has more
Depends
teeth.
on how many of the water weasels there are.
And he had that extra long tooth that kind of
This was another one I really liked. I like how,
How does he close his mouth?
yeah. Honestly,
Oh,
though,
I li-
this one's my personal favorite.
yeah, that one looks like it has
Almost a little
personality.
dragonish for that.
Yeah.
mark is, For that.
Well, you
snout.
get more of like hyper intelligence from this one, which I do really like.
And you see his neck and shoulders kind of looks like roots of old trees.
Yeah. But this deity is very much like cosmic horror. That's the idea behind it anyway. Let's see. I may have to do a few more of these for the graceful goddess. She was literally the first one I started working on. They are pretty good, but I think more could be added to it.
Yeah, it's pretty good to use for like character concepts as a reference.
Yeah, and this one is Genza. So her alternate name is the Queen in the High Tower. So the whole context around her is she's actually an imprisoned goddess, but there's the constant like allusion to a caged bird. Like she's very much like she's still able to bestow grace even though she herself is kind of like locked away. So it's like usually whenever she's being shown, she's depicted weeping.
Dang.
And I've also got it up here.
Oh, let me. Sad.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah, you can really tell it's AI once you played with it a little bit. You can really recognize the texture.
You
This
unlock
one
the
is
I like
probably
those
my
golden
favorite.
eyes.
What is it?
I said I like those golden eyes, though.
Oh, this one?
I don't think that was the one. There was another one where you could really see her eye color. Not
Oh,
Yeah,
this one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That one is really good, actually.
Yeah. She looks really, really sad in this one.
Yeah. No, that one's really good. All right, now I'll go ahead and share the last one. I think I'll go ahead and share what I settling on for our final look. So this is the one that came out the best, in my opinion. I really like the look for it. So yeah, she's basically like lustful like sorcery goddess. That's more or less how it's kind of like depicted for her. So pretty much like magic is danger, so she's kind of like the embodiment of that.
If she's got like things going through her or like growing out of her spikes.
Oh yeah,
rocky-
you're right. I
rocky
just liked
kinda
her
spikes.
expression. There's a few
Okay.
others.
Okay.
They're a little busy. That's my only gripe with them.
That
But the
one's-
look is pretty consistent, and I do like that.
yeah.
but go back to
This one?
No, go, switch back like I think 2. Oh wait, I might be. There was one you went by and I thought, wow, that one looks really cool, but you were gone so quick from it. I think they're all really cool looking.
Yeah. It's just which
That
exact one. Oh, this one?
Nope,
This one.
that one. Yeah, she looks really cool right there.
Yeah, you're right, actually.
And this is a free AI program you're running on your machine, right?
Yeah, this is Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion is pretty good.
Nice.
Well, if I may, here's the only goddess I have depicted so far.
Oh, here we go.
That's Bastet.
Ah, lovely Bastet. Bastet is pretty cool.
I don't think I know anything about. Well, I know the historical Bastet.
That's what she's based on.
Makes sense. Oop, zooming in on the.
It's not letting me move it up and down though, just
Right.
in and out.
We all believe you there. Nice. Yeah, I've been playing around with Grok a little bit for future characters that I haven't had time to design. And just throwing ideas, and it gives you a lot of inspiration on some stuff, like building scenes, trying out stuff. You can try out stuff so easily with it, and yeah, I'll give it you some artistic direction and all that. Do you find it frustrating still trying to get what you're? Are you trying to go for something specific and not getting it? Because I get that a lot with Grok. Otter.
So yeah, a lot of it comes down to I'll describe AI art as gambling in a lot of ways. It feels like you're rolling the dice on what you get.
It's so true, man. It's so true. It's got that same addictive quality to it as well.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's like, and a lot of it is guided by the prompts you put in, but even that and the model you're using for it to actually compare imagery to. But even still, it's like each model is different. They have their own flaws and strengths. And on top of that, there's just a lot of randomness to it. Every here or there, you can come across a piece where it just looks incredible. And then others where you're like, how did it even think to make something so terrible?
Yeah, that's where the gambling comes in. You get like one really cool one, and you're like, whoa, that's awesome. I just need this one with this tiny little change. But boom, then it seems like you're in a whole new category, or you change a prompt word and you're into something else. Or, dude, there's like stuff that was really hard to do with Grok, like getting rid of a beard. Like I would create a character and it would just add a beard. Typical, thing it would throw in there, but getting rid of it was kind of impossible. I'd say no beard or clean shaven, and I tried different ways to get at it, but it would be hard to get it to do certain things sometimes. But then again, sometimes I would hint at stuff and it would pick it up, and it would just give you a lot of for the most part it gives me what I want, but once in a while there's one or two frustrating things. Like I have a dwarf character and it's almost impossible to get a dwarf drawn by Grok. If there is a way, I haven't figured it out yet, and I've tried a lot of different synonyms. And
which AI are you using on it?
This is Stable Diffusion that I'm using.
Gotcha.
There's a couple of models that work really well, in my opinion. Let's see. Dream Shaper is one I use. Let's see. What's another one that I
Because
really
the
like?
results you're getting, Otter, are very kind of anime style. Is that because of the
Yeah.
model you're choosing?
It
or-
is, though strangely enough, it kind of goes beyond it in certain cases. Like this one is technically the anime style one, but as you saw with like the Eldritch monstrosities, like that's not anime at all, and it still worked. Animagine is the big anime one that I use. It's really good. Uh, let's see, another one that's really solid. Trying to look for it here. It might be Dream Shaper I use the most.
I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of tentacles in certain animes.
Yeah, good
You
point.
got a point there.
Now, if you guys want to see something funny, Frederick, if you're willing, I got what was originally the work in progress for the cover of my first book.
Oh, nice.
That never did get completed though, but that was originally supposed to be, partially done the first cover.
Yeah, that's interesting using like the back cover as well. So you would basically put text on the back cover. I would imagine you could like definitely write a blurb on the sky.
Well, yeah, the blurb would have been there. It's only in pencil, but there was is it right behind them or over in the? I'm trying to tell if it's in the back cover or behind them. You can see the farmhouse behind Elizabeth there. Yes, behind Haley there you can still see traces of what was going to become a tractor.
Right. Okay. And this concept wasn't completed because you switched to a different concept, or
Lost contact with the artist, unfortunately.
oh,
Oh
that's
no.
that's unfortunate.
It's too bad because this was the style I originally like. This was the art style I originally wanted. It was a little more mature looking, I guess you could say, a little more comic book like than what I went with. But I am not at all unhappy with what the style of what I ended up with. I really like how it came out.
Same here. I think the way it came out looks more appealing as a cover because there's a little bit more dynamism and the image pulls you in a bit.
Adrian DKC, he really knows how to put a dynamic cover together. I mean, he blew me away with the second cover.
That's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to the day I'll be doing covers. Like the first time somebody's going to ask me to do a cover, I think it's going to be really cool. I'm thinking comic book vein style specifically, but yeah. Because covers are so fun, man. It's so freaking awesome. It's like you got kind of permission to make the drawing as freaking awesome as possible. Like you're not as much tied into the story where you're at or anything. You just got to go full tilt and grab it, attention grabbing art. That's usually the fun stuff.
But when I was looking for inspiration for what Bastet would look like, I typed into Google Egyptian models, and this lady is one of the ones that popped up, and I just saw her face. I'm like, that's Bastet right there. I got her queued up.
You knew at first
I have
sight.
no idea. Yeah, when I saw her right away, I was like, that's Bastet. I have no idea who this lady is. But I saw her face. I'm like, that's it. That's it right there.
Yeah, I see what you mean. She's got something there.
I was like, she looks like a cat goddess.
She looks like trouble.
No idea who she is. It didn't say in the in any of the captions or anything. I mean, there was a bunch of different Egyptian models. I was just going through and taking screenshots, going, maybe I'll use this aspect of her chin and this lady's eyes over here, and then she popped up. I'm like, nope, that's her. That's her.
Yeah. It really helps to have references and to build a file. And we were talking about that. Like, as well as pictures and all that. You got the music. I'm building a playlist like after I know listening to.
Yeah.
We've got a whole playlist for each character now. I used to have this master playlist. Now I'm dividing it into characters. I'm like, okay, no, this song is for this one. I'm splitting it up. And yeah, I think when I'll be either writing or drawing those scenes, I'll be focusing on those.
I know
playlists.
for each book I write, I end up making a playlist for that book. It feels like it's there to help narrow down the tone that I'm going for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have a playlist on my channel for both first and second book. All the songs that got played. Yeah, in the second one, Haley plays a Stan Bush song. Hacked the bass audio and played it right over the PA speakers while fighting a bunch of bad guys.
Nice.
Was Dare.
Yeah, I mean, in comics, you can insert songs pretty freely as well, because you could just have like a radio caption and you put like one of the verses or just one of the, then if it's a famous enough song, you'll pick up which song the author is hinting at and have it in your head while the scene is playing, hopefully.
Thing is, you do have to pay. You do have to go purchase rights to use if you're going to put the actual lyrics in a book. Like I'm not sure exactly where the line is, but I decided not to have any of them sing along and put quotation marks on it, quoting the lyrics, because I didn't want to get in trouble. So pretty much, I would have them. They would go play a song. I'd say which song it is, but not quote any of the words in it, just so like readers would know, okay, they'll either recognize that song, or if they cared, they can go listen to it on pretty much type it into a computer and you'll bring any song up that you want at almost any time. So, but I think that does help set the tone and the mood for what's going on in the scene.
I mean, exactly. Like you could even list the suggested reading, like you say, like you have a playlist and all that, and you're not violating anything because you're not making money off the music. You're just linking to it so people can listen to it while they're reading. But then it serves as the soundtrack in a way.
Yeah, like some of the lesser known songs, like in the first book, Nothing's Gonna Stand in Our Way by Kick-Axe, also known as Spectre General, gets played. And I was hoping, it's not the most well-known tune around. And I actually want to put some exposure on that song because I really like that song. Same thing with Stan Bush's Dare.
I love Dare. It's such a good song.
I don't think I know them. I'll have to check it out.
Well,
We'll have to show you what it's about after this stream.
Yeah, off
it's
air, we'll
really
have to-
good.
yeah. And it was in Transformers the movie, the 86 one.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about it with Maji the other day. That's when, on your Weekly Wing It, I think a week or two back. I
Seems like
recall.
every time that song was playing, Hot Rod decided to crash through something. A roadblock sign, Unicron's eyeball. I mean,
Damn.
That in a lot of ways, that movie just feels like quintessential 80s. Just like fuck the
is.
rules, we do things our own way.
that movie, I think, pretty much shaped how my brain developed. I mean, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it definitely probably one of the most influential on me when I was growing up.
We were all raised by media, our generation. Mix of music, video games, movies. I mean, what saved us maybe is a little bit of books, and that we had good movies back then as well. So you could learn a little bit about life if from watching a couple of the good movies, anyways.
Well said, dear sir. Well said. I fear for the generation who goes without good media. All they have to compare is to the schlock they grew up with.
Yeah, man, I feel for kids today. It's
Why do you think the music that was popular when we were growing up, Frederick, is the music that a lot of kids are listening to now?
well, the good ones, yeah, yeah. I think some of them are getting offended by our generation stuff.
Oh well, let them be offended.
Exactly.
Most of the big hit songs out there are like written by 6 people who keep cranking out songs and selling them off to artists.
Yeah,
It's
right.
the industry. It like kind of narrowed it down to certain. I guess they're trying to control the culture.
Oh yeah, I mean the studios were very involved in what the artists were putting out. And we know that now, especially in the rap industry. Like it's coming out. People are revealing how it was engineered to fill up the prisons. Basically, you had the same people who would hold a lot of shares in the record industry were holding shares in the prison system as well. That's why they were promoting the whole gangster rap movement and putting a lot of emphasis on glorifying crime and all that. It was they were preparing a next generation of clients in their jail. Sadly enough,
Menudo was more organic than the music now.
Menudo.
Yeah, that was more of a formula than a band. As soon as they hit 18, they were out of the band and they replaced them with a new kid. It was a boy band, but it was.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of those. There
Yeah,
was a
so-
lot of those.
Age of the boy band.
They seem to be super popular in Korea and Japan. Like they have these studio bands, right? They're all like polished up, and you can feel the industry behind them. It's crazy.
The Monkees were more organic than the stuff we got now, and that was and they were scripted.
Yeah.
I used to watch that on Nickelodeon all the time.
The Monkees
Yeah.
reruns. Yeah.
No, yeah, they were by no means new. They were new to me at the time, but they
So
were
who-
the show was being rerun on Nickelodeon, and I loved it.
the music was good. Like whoever was writing the music was like as good as any other
Yeah.
pop band out there, right? They had good production.
Have all of them passed, or is Mike Nesmith still alive?
I don't even know their names. Couldn't tell you. Like I've never
I think
been-
the most popular was Davy Jones. You may have heard of him.
Oh, yeah, I've heard the name a lot. I didn't know it
Mhm.
referred to him.
Davy Jones, Mickey Dolenz, Peter Tork, and Mike Nesmith.
No, I think I was more into the Doors, so I knew who they were. Jim Morrison had quite a story as well.
And for the longest time, my favorite song was "Take on Me" by Aha.
Yeah, yeah.
That's about as
classic.
80s as it gets.
Yeah, it's got quite a video as well. Like it's kind of hand drawn sketch.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. I had no idea what was supposed to be happening, but I watched that video over and over again.
Yeah. Phil Collins was huge back then as well. Like he was one of the biggest bands that would get played.
Genesis.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made a big resurgence in the early 2000s, didn't he?
Yeah, but I wasn't following music as much during those periods.
I think that's because he scored a couple movies. I think it was Tarzan was one of them, and I think Brother Bear was the other.
He played in Tarzan.
He wrote songs for the movies.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I don't know why I pictured him as an actor for a moment. It's like, what part did he play?
I'm really
the soundtrack part.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really liking this look that came about rather randomly for the Sea God. It's not what I was intended, but I really like the look anyway. It's
Well, let's
really
see.
neat. Yeah, it should be up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't notice it. Got it. Here we go.
Oh, cool.
Can we make it bigger?
There it is.
Yes, that's bigger.
Isn't he big enough?
I meant bigger on the screen there, Wrangler. It's a tiny little snapshot. That's pretty
know-
good, man. That's pretty good.
What I was originally imagining looked a lot more generic, but I like this kind of. I like this design a hell of a lot more. It's
That's the
really
thing
like
sometimes, yeah.
alien.
Yeah, it will suggest some things to you sometimes that you're like, oh, I didn't think of that. Might keep that.
Now,
This is
Otter,
like
your
if a
guys, they
kraken decided to get shredded.
now your guys, they can show up normal person size or Titan size if they chose. Or they always just Titan size.
Honestly, I haven't thought about it that much. This is not for Steel and Stormbright, by the way. This is actually for a different setting I'm doing. This is actually for where we've been playing Castles and Crusades, more as just a depiction of what deities there are.
Oh, cool. Let's go fight them. My dwarf
Yeah.
will walk up to him and say, axe this. We all know what happens next. That was embarrassing.
Yeah, really.
I had the advantage, and what did I do? I was just short of a fumble.
Yeah, but it happens. I honestly, though, if you all decided to just seal up the entrance to the Goblin Lair and wait a week, that would have been really fun. I was waiting for you guys to do that. I went, oh, that's not the case. Oh well.
But remember, I was playing a ranger, and he knew they were holding a critter captive.
That is true. That is true.
There's no way he would have been okay with possibly starving out their prisoner.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting to see how the dynamic of the game changed whenever the goblins were like trying to jump out and attack you guys, but you all just were prepared. Then the tables turned whenever you all started investigating and they were prepared.
Which was really, we knew we were going to run into prepared goblins. I can't believe we handled it so poorly.
Yeah, well, there was only a couple of you all. That I think that was the big thing. If it was like a whole group of you all, I don't think you all would have had much trouble.
But I thought that would have given us an advantage because the goblins would have thought, oh, just these two, we can handle that. And then have the rest show up all of a sudden and throw them off. And
Yeah.
it just didn't work out that way.
The dice did not work out that way.
I mean, there wasn't much strategy involved, but there was a little.
There was strategy
It
involved.
just turned out that the strategy didn't work.
Yeah. It is one thing I do kind of like to see compared to like 5e, where it's like, for the most part in 5e, like you don't really have to think about it all that much for the most part. Like you can jump straight into battle and you're going to have a much, much easier time in general. Some of these other systems, it's more about strategy. So the dice are a lot more neutral in that respect. I do like that just in general.
I still think it's hilarious that I rolled such good stats and then had almost no good rolls in game.
Oh, dude, that happens, man.
It is unfortunate. The trade-off is, so some of it factored into how the system works, because modifiers it's harder to get a +1, but a +1 means more at the same time. And on top of that, whenever you level up, everything goes up. It's not just like hit points. It's like every roll you do gets like a +1 to it. Maybe with the exception of combat, maybe. So it's
But
like,
what was really bugging me was even though I was level 1, so were all my opponents, and they were just doing better anyway.
Yeah.
I was like, this is embarrassing.
There was a reason why he let you guys like play all of them in combat, because I'm like, if this is just me, like I would have been fine if you all wanted me to do it, but it would have been me rolling a lot because you guys had like 20 guys with you.
Yeah.
So in that case, I'm like, hey, you guys basically get a shitload of extra attacks. There you
And
go.
I still ended up knocked the F out.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately so.
Who were you attacking? Who was the bad guy?
Goblins.
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 And apparently they were more skilled than us because they were getting good hits in.
They were getting good hits in. They're around the end anyway.
He was one dude stepped up, clocked me, and I was out cold. I thought my character was dead.
Yeah, the system is a little forgiving in that respect. I think by default it's like you're knocked out.
I
But
was
if
very
it's like-
shocked when you told me I wasn't dead. I'm like, are you being nice?
No, I'm not being nice. Like it's actually written into the player's handbook that you have to get to like -7 hit points. That's when you're like really bleeding out. And if you go to -10, that's when you're truly dead. Roll up a new character. Yeah, it's not so much like being like knocked out in a fair fight, but if you guys are like fighting an enemy that's much tougher and it's doing tons of damage, then it's a real danger.
Still funny. We technically should have had the advantage, and we still got kind of worked over pretty good.
Yeah, I still wouldn't feel too bad about it though. You guys,
We
are
did
first
anyway.
level.
The other Billy Bob and Kahuna were just fine.
It makes me wonder if tabletop games are too random sometimes. 'Cause there's are a lot of easy things that you got to roll for. It's like that example of going to the bathroom. What was that video we watched the other day? Or yeah, you linked to me, Otter. You know what I mean? One player decides to roll when he goes to the bathroom, and he gets unlucky, and then this
It's a
whole
fumble.
yeah, exactly. And
Wait, I
'cause
sent that?
was it not you? I thought it was in
Uh,
a conversation in the lounge another time.
Oh, it might have been.
So basically, it was just, I think it was one of the players just complaining that, there's no discussion. There's nothing happening. Like, it's not real that the characters never go to the bathroom. We never cover, full bladders and all that. And the DM's kind of rolling his eyes. Okay, fine, we'll have you roll. And then he fumbles, obviously, for the story. And yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. Sometimes you do ordinary things in games and your character should be able to ace it. But just because you got to roll for it, boom, sometimes you can miss it. And
Well, some of that comes down to the actual ruling. Like, part of it is like what the system you all are playing, like what's expected there. Some of it just comes down to the DM. Like some things should not require a roll. That's the real thing, because at the end of the day, like what the DM's trying to do is to like they're simulating a world for like his players to actually like roam around in. But if it's
can see
too
it now.
random, it kind of breaks that.
I can see it now where the DM's like, I'm feeling pedantic today. Everybody roll a 20. And they all say their numbers, and he's like, you need a bathroom bad.
I'm sure there's a DM out there who does that. Every DM has their own style. That's the thing. Like that's why at the end of the day, like the hobby of tabletop role playing, like it's more than just like a game you're playing. Like there is also an element of style to it. It is like a hobby that both players and the DM do get better at, like the more they play it. So it's like I don't know. It comes down to what kind of game does the DM want to run? Also, what kind of game does the players want to play in? So that's really the end of it. I've played in some games where it's just like Looney Tunes logic. And there's rare cases when that works, but most of the time it's just bad.
Yeah,
So,
Paranoia was close to Looney Tunes logic. Paranoia was a game where you basically, every time you died, you came back as one of your clones.
Yeah,
And-
and I played in that for one session. I think it was just a one shot, and I was fine with the premise. What I did not like was that the DM rolled all of the dice rolls. I was like, okay, that's bullshit. Because rolling dice is fun. Like, I know this is like authoritarian society, but come on, that's just bad.
Was that part of the game or was
That
it
might
his
have just been the
choice?
DM's ruling. I'm not sure. Either way, I did not like that.
Yeah, it's so far back. I don't recall if we rolled or not. I think we rolled, but
I
couldn't be
think
sure.
players. I think regardless, like if you're a player and you're playing an RPG with someone, you should be able to roll dice at the very least. Like I can get behind a lot of restrictions, but if you're not rolling dice at all, in a game that uses dice, like what are you doing?
Dude, like I've played games sometimes with a DM, and we had like I'm starting to like notice after an hour or so, we have no agency in the game. Everything was just
I've
a
been in those
story,
games.
a story being told, and we're in it. And
It's the railroad, and the thing is, like when I was starting off there for the first couple of years, I did games like that, and I'm telling you, it's not that great. Like even from the DM's perspective, it's a lot more stress than you think it is, and it's just not fun. Like I think it's way more fun to know what kind of like to have like a good set of DM tools, and also just to have a good system that actually helps out the DM as well as the players. Like that was the thing that got me with 5th edition for the longest time. It's like it gives you basic advice on how to run the game, but it doesn't really give you that much of a tool set. And that was always my biggest problem with it.
Dude,
And
when
some
you say-
things it just straight up over complicated. Challenge rating. I think it worked in other systems. In 5th edition, not only was it very complicated, it was also broken. It did not work.
there's got to be like homebrewed systems that are like with like is there one called GURPS or there's got to be some homebrewed system like even Dungeons and Dragon Pathfinder is one, right?
Yeah, Pathfinder kind of spiraled off from 3.5 D&D after everybody hated 4th edition.
Yeah.
Like from what I know of 4th edition, it was basically a war game meets MMORPG, which I kind of understand because D&D did kind of spiral out of a war game. Like Chainmail was like the big one that a lot of people like to cite. But at the same time, it's not just the wargaming aspect of it. And I think also like the slotted abilities. I think that's what turned a lot of people off from that game. It was very numbers heavy.
Oh, really?
3.5 is too, and Pathfinder as well, but not in that way.
Huh.
This was like modifiers and like different like changed numbers for every little factor you could think of.
Yeah, some people really like that. Some people dig that, and it can get really heavy. I mean, Shadowrun, that was one of the biggest problems in a lot of the early editions. The fights would never end.
Yeah, and that was 4th edition's big problem. You heard of a lot of games in 4th edition where just one battle would take up to like 4 to 5 hours or something like that.
Yes.
And it would just be a skirmish too. It shouldn't be like this big battle that's spanning across continents or anything like that, or armies. No, it's just like 8 people in a room, but
Yeah,
there's so
yeah,
much
just-
complexity to it. It
Yeah,
drags
micromanaging
everything
all
out.
the interactions, and yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. It could get tedious then.
For my issues with 5th edition, they did fix that quite a bit actually.
But then they bloated up the health pool and everything as well. So
Yeah. I know whenever I was looking at some of the other like OSR or more old school systems, it's like you kind of notice that starting characters have much fewer hit points, and you think, man, these games are hardcore, but you kind of realize that enemies don't do quite as much damage either. So it's more that hit points just mean more. There's more like value to them, if that makes any sense. And I think it's around like 3rd edition onward where you start to see more of kind of like this numbers bloat going on, where it's like, especially like rolling for dice or like hit points or whatever, it's just numbers that are very much inflated, going way beyond they need to.
What was that game with the portals?
Rifts? Is that what you're
Rifts.
talking about?
Yes.
I've heard a lot of people talk about Rifts. I would
Yeah.
like to check out Rifts one day.
I
It
played
sounds
it.
like it'd be a fun game.
It is fun if you want, especially if you want to play like god level things that happen throughout multiple galaxies, and it's really wild for that. Like, yeah, you can have these super advanced beings, and the numbers get really high. Like you could have like powers in 2000s and things like that. It's numbers are very high in that game as well. But it's a
Oh,
really
okay.
fun game. It's mainly developed by one guy who, I mean, there was a lot of people involved, but he was like overseeing the kind of gatekeeping the lore and everything,
Yeah.
and pretty tightly, which makes everything's makes sense together. Like everything holds up and has a lot of internal logic to get to it. So I think you'd enjoy it. It's a good one to explore.
Yeah, the premise itself sounds like a lot of fun.
The art on the books are crazy wild. Crazy good art.
I can tell you this about what ultimately turned me away from 5th edition is that not only can preparing monsters be a lot of unnecessary work, because at the end of the day, like one of the big things you want to do as a DM is actually challenge your players. The problem is that, and you kind of see this with other games like Baldur's Gate 3 that use 5th edition, is that short of like throwing in like unfair traps for your players, they are going to like steamroll over anything you put in their way. Like it doesn't matter, because it's like, oh, you have this super like powerful necromancer with 200 hit points and 20 armor class. Well, here comes this paladin with this overpowered like smite ability where they can do it 5 times a turn. There goes like 3/4 of their health in one round. It's like it's unnecessary complexity that boils down into very little.
Yeah. Some people love that though. Some people really get into that.
Yeah, but it's terrible though whenever you're trying to make a challenge.
Sounds
And
like
it's
the
like-
dashboard in a German vehicle.
Yeah. Well, the problem is it's like it's a very one-sided affair. Like you're basically designing your games to be fully exploited. Like there's nothing there.
The best system I ever played, like system, was the Vampire the Masquerade and the whole werewolf system. It was simple enough that you could create a character really fast, and it was really easy to understand, super quick to read your character sheet, know what to roll. It was always 10-sided dice as well, so it was like always the same system, very few questions, and the books, were really well referenced. You could quickly go to the ability, see what it would do, and yeah, I think Vampire the Masquerade. I forget what the mother company was called, the parent company. But, yeah, I think that one really worked well in terms of balancing simplicity and just fun at the game tabletop.
Is that White Wolf Publishing?
Yes,
that
White
did
Wolf.
that. Yeah.
White
Yeah,
Wolf.
and I know Vampire the Masquerade is from what I've heard, it's a very solid system. It did kind of set one trend that you could kind of argue had some negative repercussions, where it's like it's a lot more kind of like of a role play heavy system, not in the sense of like, oh, we're role playing, but it's like, what is my character's backstory? Who do they personally care for in the world?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot of those questions where it's like it ends up kind of like starting as kind of like this precursor to like the Matt Mercer effect, where everything has to be like strictly story driven. That's like the one trend I'm aware of where it wasn't the. It was like it worked fine for the game itself, but in the long run, it didn't do a whole lot of good.
We had a DM who created a really unique system. Like he had basically no life and did this full time.
Oh,
And
okay.
He was a system where we would basically LARP. So we played live, and this was like people even in cemeteries in Quebec. Quebec is like an old city, so everything looks gothic when you go to the old town to play. And people would play sessions of LARPing live and all that, but the main focus of the game was through influences. So what you wanted to do was you wanted to get your basically your servants and your influences built up, and you would make moves. You would basically be calling up your influences. Okay, I need this in the newspaper. I need to drown this story out, do this. And you'd get your humans to do shit during the day. And then the other players would get reports from their influences in the space. Okay, oh, you have somebody who's in banking, so you hear this movement is happening and you hear about this and all that. And people would hear each other's moves through their influences and all that. And that was a really unique, wild system that really applied well to vampires where you would not necessarily be first person the action all the time. You would just be, pulling the strings, which is a very vampire thing to do as well.
Oh yeah. I've never done any LARPing myself. How was that?
It's kind of cringe.
No,
But,
I've always kind of had that impression of it. I was like, I'm willing to try it out just to say I've done it more than anything. Some of it seems like there's a certain level of cringe to it though.
Oh yeah, all the time. But
I didn't know what LARP was until an episode of Supernatural.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's basically tabletop without the table. You just go outside, and the thing is, you don't do any dice rolls. Everything is rock, paper, scissors. So that's how you determine who wins the roll.
I'm not gonna lie, that's a little lame.
Yeah, you see a lot of goths like in
Rock,
the
paper, scissors.
cemetery at night doing rock, paper, scissors.
Wait, can I get like a big ass dice and throw it at somebody?
They don't do
Nat
Hunter
20,
Bear
bitch, Nat
Ninja.
20, Nat 20. You die.
Imagine
What
if
do
we
you
were
think?
LARPing that last episode and Billy Bob's character went to get Cohen in the nuts.
But it can get really
Why?
good. Like there are good moments where you're like building up to like go attack another rival gang, and when you've got the whole setting of like old Quebec at night and it's like autumn and you can get some really nice settings, really nice moments as well. So to balance out the cringe, there is some really cool aspects to it, and some people had really good costumes, and people were really into their characters and brought their A game as well. So there was some good aspects to it.
You know, something that I've honestly been thinking of a lot more. Now, Billy, I know you follow him as well, so there is a big D&D tuber called The Basic Expert, where he'll talk about like tabletop theory and a lot of that. One of the things he's talked about over the last couple of months is the idea of the mythic underworld. And technically, this is nothing new. It's just a certain way of describing it, which is kind of unique, is that when it comes to dungeon design, I don't know how much you guys have like looked over kind of like the overall philosophy of designing dungeons in D&D or tabletop RPGs, but usually a lot of game masters will bring up the idea of dungeon ecology, which is what monsters inhabit the dungeon, where do they eat, where do they take a shit, where do they sleep, that sort of stuff.
Is there like
Well-
a dungeon monster cafeteria in the dungeon or something?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. But the idea of the mythic underworld is kind of directly opposes that, where it kind of poses the idea that you're in a dungeon, it's kind of not meant to make sense. Like the farther down you go in a dungeon, it's actually supposed to defy logic. That way it seems more mysterious and otherworldly. And the thing is, like, there are games out there that kind of already do this. Like, if you look at the original Diablo, it very much does that. Like, you're pretty much going down a chapel, which goes into a bunch of caves to the threshold of hell to kill Satan. It's not meant to make sense.
Yeah.
And there is a certain charm to that as well, where things don't directly correlate to logic.
I think I got hung up in that when I was trying to figure out the whole underground base in the first book. I thought, all right, what would they have set up in here? They need a place to eat, the people who would be holed up in here. So I had a command center, I had a cafeteria.
Well, if it's supposed to abide by like regular real world logic, then I think that's acceptable. It really comes down to the idea of like D&D Swords and Sorcery, where mysticism is a big part of the world, where it's like you're not going strictly by logic. That's when it makes more sense to have that kind of like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it's not meant to at the same time.
Yeah. I didn't mention it anywhere in the book, but on the map I had drawn out, I actually had a place where personnel would bunk.
I mean, that makes sense. You
Yeah,
usually
makes
have
sense.
those in maps as well, like especially for the human side. Like when you have barracks or castles and things like that, it's normal to have those kinds of areas. But when you're going deep into dungeons, I think the fun is to have like sinuous caves and exactly discovering, like not being able to know where you're headed.
It's the mystery that's fun. And it also, when you're a DM, it also kind of like frees you from a lot of constraints that would normally come up. You don't have to ask yourself all these like...
You don't have to be an architect to make a...
Right, you don't have to like architect it out. You can just kind of let your imagination go wild, which is a lot more fun.
Which is what I tried to do. I'm like, how are they getting air down here? Where's their water? What are they doing with it? I kept asking myself all these questions, probably because I grew up in construction.
There's a good AI system to use that'll do that all for you as well. We're getting really close to...
There is a fun Fafhrd and Grey Mouser story where there's like two major factions deep underground. And this is a fantasy world, but it does deal with the question. It's like, how do they get air that far down? So how it justifies it is they have like numerous slaves like fanning air from the surface just down like these vents, basically using like tons and tons of manual labor. But they later end up using this to their advantage whenever the Grey Mouser finds like a bunch of like basically their opium stash and just dumps it down directly to where it gets filtered into the air. So one of the faction, I think both of the factions who are warring with each other are just completely tripping whenever they're fighting.
Yeah, I had to think about that. Like, even though I haven't as of yet come across it where I have to write it into the books, but my dwarves, where they have underground facilities, they also have above ground facilities because they need to farm their food too.
That is true.
So they might have a massive underground complex, but if there's not something directly above on the surface for cultivation, then it's connected with another underground complex where they do have an above ground thing and they do trade.
Did you guys read Journey to the Center of the Earth?
Yes.
By Jules Verne. Yeah. With
Brendan
going... say what? He's going down
with
caves.
Brendan Fraser.
Oh, I didn't see that.
The movie.
Yeah, they're going down caves for a while, and then at some point they reach a place where there's like sun at the within the cave. There's a light source, and then there's vegetation and all that. That's pretty wild. I always think back to that.
I had to
George
come
Verne-
up with that entire system for my second book. Why is there a day-night cycle? Where's the light coming from? How is the oxygen? I thought of all of that. And I have this giant series of underground caverns that are inhabited.
by dwarves.
No. Mostly humans, actually, but they weren't allowed to leave. However, it's the most
humans.
technologically advanced place on the planet.
Sounds like a ditty party. At least they're not allowed to leave part. Sorry, didn't mean to sidetrack.
It was Atlantis.
The movie? The Disney movie?
No. They found Atlantis in the book.
Oh, in the book, sorry. Yeah.
It was underneath Antarctica.
Oh, man. Antarctica's wild. That's why I like that Aliens versus Predator movie. Good setting. That's where the Thing was set as well.
Well, a lot of it comes back to H.P. Lovecraft's story at the Mountains of Madness. That's where a lot of the inspiration is derived.
Is that set in Antarctica as well, or?
Yeah, it's basically a group of archaeologists exploring they're discovering not only the origin of humanity, but also a lot about the Earth's like prehistoric origin under the ice. They're learning that this ancient race of like elder beings, they were like architects of the world. They created the dinosaurs. They had like these like amorphous blobs called Shoggoths as slaves. And then it's like humanity's actual evolution is largely an accident. So it's pretty much that they're all realizing, hey, this is all some kind of like the Earth itself is basically a petri dish for life.
That's not nihilistic at all, no.
Well,
And
it's
the,
cosmic horror. There's going to be a certain level of nihilism there.
I just
And
think
a
it's
lot of
funky
the,
that he has slaves as blobs as well.
And the sentient big O creatures that rule the universe are all socialists.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
To be honest, I think that book needs to be rewritten. It's just me. Like, you make it sound cool, but when you read it, there's a lot of exposition. And
It's
holy shit.
pacing issues more than
Like,
anything.
Yeah, it's heavy pacing issues, paragraphs and paragraphs of just the character's thought. There are no characters. You don't get to really know much people at all. They're just names and random ass folk. And for me, the one thing that kept bugging the shit out of me is I hope you do not mind repetitiveness in your writing.
Oh man.
Because there's a shit ton of it. And I mean, like, they must, like, the dude must write in the Mountains of Madness, like, what, 8, 9 times? Like, holy shit. I get it. I'm sorry. It's just that book let me down a lot because everybody really sells it really good, and then you read it, and they don't tell you about any of the.
It's more of the pacing issues that bug me in the book. Like, as for the lack of character, I can't. That's honestly that's most of H.P. Lovecraft's writing, and
that's because he just writes about himself.
Well, yeah. Well, you could also argue that about Junji Ito, but here's where I'll kind of like slightly disagree. I don't think the character really matters all that much. It's more about the horror. The characters are basically placeholders. That's how I excuse it anyway. Like character, like if it was a lot more character focused, I think it would probably detract from the horror because it's a lot more kind of like focused on what's happening in front of the characters rather than who they are.
No, so I don't know, because you're seeing the entire story through a point of view, and you don't even really understand that point of view at the end, other than it's a scientist, a part of this expedition.
Yeah, Do we need to know much more than that?
I'd like to, because they're losing their mind along the way, especially with the ending when it says, "Oh, this student of mine," what happens to his students? Like, okay, random
I
guy
don't
number
think that's
15.
the point of Lovecraft's writing, though. I think it's just about the horror. I don't think it's about the person experiencing the horror quite as much as it is about the revelation itself. That's the fun of it.
I don't know, man, because it's fucking writing. It would be nice to have some characters. Like, you can say it's not about
I'm
that,
I'm saying, dude, it's not just Lovecraft that does this. This is a stylistic choice. Junji Ito does the exact same thing.
Oh, he must do it better than Lovecraft, because it becomes a gigantic.
Try reading Ito sometime. It's arguably worse there.
Well, I don't know, man. Lovecraft's pretty bad as a writer. I'm not talking about his lore and stuff. And it's not necessarily that he's bad. Like, I did a heavy deep dive. I always bring this shit up because people really, really, really love Lovecraft. But the dude could, really did not like anyone editing his work even slightly. And I think that was genuinely what was really keeping him from reaching that level that everybody seems like. I don't know. I don't get the obsession other than the lore.
It's a fair point with
the lore is beyond
wanting.
intriguing.
That's a fair point with not wanting your work edited like that. Like, it's a display of creator ego, and trust me, like, between professionals and even like a lot of us in the indie space, you see it more than a little. Like, it's all over the place. Like, that's the thing. It's just being cognizant about it. Like, I think that's what's important.
Sometimes it works. Like Aliens 2. Who's the director of Aliens? Is that James Cameron, right? James Cameron. I don't know. Maybe this is controversial. Maybe people are like, what? No, that's a sin. How dare he? He purposely kind of chewed out all of what's his name? Geiger's work to the side. Like, no, screw you. This is what the aliens are gonna look like. Get out of my room. Because if you actually compare the first Alien to the one in Aliens, they're not the same design. The head design is very different. They got two very different heads if you look at them close.
Yeah.
Well, the one in the second one, it's like all armored pieces around it instead of the sleek design and kind of translucent that was in the first Alien movie.
Now, I will give this point to you, James. I think you could argue that Alien is probably the best middle ground between character and horror, because the focus is very much on the horror in that movie, but they had an entire fully fleshed out characters for all of them written out. It's just it never put a spotlight on it.
And then they all die together, like they're nothing. And then you're like, dude, there goes half these super badass characters I got to know for the last hour and a half. Now they're all dead.
Alien 1?
The second. Aliens.
Yeah, I'm talking Alien 1.
Well, both of them do it actually pretty well. Like, all of them have layers of character within them. You hear within their dialogue how they talk to each other. There's tension before the alien gets there. Ripley's
They're also all fucking on the Nostromo. Every one of them, they're all fucking each other.
The one that bugged me was Alien 3. Everybody who survived at the end of Alien 2 died in stasis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would everyone.
that's
well,
that.
that's
I
technically
don't hate
retcon.
Alien 3, but it's just how it begins. I think it just said it puts a bad taste in your mouth.
I mean, for a clusterfuck, it's not bad.
So
Yeah,
technically, I
everyone
think
regards
that's
it as a
retcon now.
failed movie.
Yeah, that's retcon now. Or was
Is
retcon
it?
with the Alien Colonial Marines game.
Oh, okay, because that's canon.
It is
Yeah,
actually canon.
Well, I guess I do like how Hicks is alive, but that game sucks. I don't know.
I know, but
Story-wise,
it is like 100% canon. Like 100%.
Right, they added in there. It's in the book. It's in the canon Bible of Aliens.
Yeah. Seriously.
Oh well, like the story wasn't that bad. Kind of generic, but gameplay's where it sucked.
Speaking of alien movies, Pitch Black. Don't you
Okay.
love how they made Riddick out to be this big bad killer? How many people did he kill in that movie?
I think one.
Zero.
He didn't kill Johns. Johns.
No,
get
he
killed,
didn't.
but-
He got killed by the alien
thing.
creatures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give him that
He
kill.
was fighting
Like,
with Johns, but the creatures are what killed him, not Riddick. However, in
I got-
Chronicles of
because-
Riddick, he killed pretty much everybody. So
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
really like.
But they didn't really have people to spare to kill in that movie, you know?
Yeah,
They didn't really have a chance to have a high body count.
Not enough bodies.
yeah, but
to
even the
start
one
with.
guy you thought he was going to kill, he still didn't kill him either.
he would have. He totally would have.
Well, yeah. As soon as the guy tried to con him into killing the kid, he was
I
like,
don't remember it that much.
"No."
So I think it's about time to wrap this up, Frederick.
Wow.
Yeah. So inked a little bit tonight. Still some work to do, but such is life. And yeah, we're about to enter shill time.
Yay for the show.
Convoy, 12 o'clock, on my command! Deploy! Okay, now. Little off course here. Ooh, holy mommy fucking shit!
Oh, there they are. Look at these gorgeous sons of bitches.
Every
Ah.
Deadpool has a Peter.
Hey.
James.
Such a fun
Hello,
kid.
everybody. I should have actually a video releasing in the next couple of days. It's going to be my audio full cast version of Glimmerleaf. Expect that in the next 2 days for my premium subscribers on my Substack. But everybody else can check that on YouTube on the 15th. This upcoming 15th. So you can catch all that on my Substack. I'll make sure to release it on my Substack on the 15th for everybody as well at worldwithoutendlore.substack.com.
Nice. Otter.
Well, my second book is coming along quite nicely. I'm finally getting some artwork back for it and beta reader feedback as well. In the meantime, you can find the first book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, the big retail sites. I am also normally on YouTube, where we are doing our gaming streams as well as our movie streams. So this coming Saturday, we're going to be discussing The Blob, which should be quite
Yeah. I started watching it.
1958 Blob.
Dude, are you guys do you guys have a color version? Is it color? Because I'm watching it in color. I thought it was going to be black and white.
You watching
the
original?
it's the 1958 version, which I believe is black and white.
Yeah, I have the 1958, and it's a colored version, so it may be a bit colored after the fact or something.
It's like restored color.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, it's the 1958 version of The Blob that we're going to be talking about this Saturday. So join us then. It should be a lot of fun. A lot of spooky Halloween discussions.
It's quite a culture shock, that movie.
And I cannot wait for your second book. I'm eager to dig into that one.
I'm also getting this was something that just got arranged today, actually, but I think I'm going to be having Man Behind the Screen beta reading for the second book, which I am excited about because, in my experience, Man Behind the Screen is a damn good beta reader.
Awesome.
Nice.
Frequency.
You can find my stuff on Amazon. It's Haley Star Bad Kitty and the follow-up Bad Kitty Haley's World. You can also find my YouTube channel. Do a channel search at Wrangler212. And there you'll find pretty much everyone here hanging out on the weekly Wing It, where we have no idea what we're going to say till we get there. So we're just as surprised as you. You could also find me on the X Twitter, Truth and Minds, under Frequency Studios, and Frequency Studios on my Substack. I should have a short story coming up there in the next few weeks.
Nice. I got nothing. Frederick.
What do you mean you got nothing, Billy Bob Sack? You got an Only Gremlins where you sell naked Gremlins pictures? Is that how it works?
That's it's an allegation, you know.
Oh, that's why you're not allowed to
got
talk
to
about
pay
it.
for it.
It's on ongoing legal matters.
Ongoing investigation.
imakecomics.com is the forward address. It'll take you to rattelcomic.com where you can see where I'm at with the art on Rattel, including the progress, including samples. There's 3 color pages. I should put up the 4th. I don't know why I haven't put up the 4th yet. I think I wanted to do retouches at the same time. I'm doing flats for the 3 and 4, 2 and 3, which are a double page spread. So that's pretty exciting as well. But I'm not going to show those until those come out in the comics. So it's going to be cool. So stay tuned, subscribe to the mailing list, and check out our weekly show. This is a weekly draw stream. Tune in next week to see what we'll think of next. Probably nothing.
Couple.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Good night.
Goodbye.
God
everybody.
bless.
Squeak.
We'll
Athletic
leave
tits. Squeak, squeak.
We got one big long combo clip to outro us this time.
Oh.
See everybody. Au revoir.
The sun has gone to bed, and so must I. So long, farewell. Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, 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 goodbye.
Hello, Bitcoiners. Thank you very much. Hello. It's good to be with you. It's good to be with you.